We've got multiple shots of snow on the way, and in this video I've got brand new details right here, so stick around for everything on the upcoming pattern, not just snow. Thanks so much for joining me here at One Nation Weather in this morning update here for our Wednesday. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to get me to that 3,000 subscriber goal. Now looking at our pattern overview future radar with Weatherbell Maps, where I have a free trial link for that in the description. You can see as we make our way in towards our Wednesday late day here, we've got some snowfall that's likely to break out, and some of it will be heavy enough to trigger those winter storm warnings here through parts of southeast central South Dakota, so to speak, there, and then into parts of southwestern Minnesota. We've also got this push of some rainfall into the higher terrain there into parts of California and Oregon, where that will turn over to snowfall there, again, in those higher elevations. Right along the immediate coastline is where it stays as rain. You can see as this polar jet stream kind of keeps like this, and we kind of have this zonal flow developing across the country, we're going to see everything pretty much move directly west to east, especially out of these first couple of rounds here. So you can see they're up through parts of southeast Minnesota on over to Michigan late tonight and into our Thursday morning. That's where we get some snowfall to break out there, even some rain there into parts of Illinois. And then we start to see some of that snowfall push inland into the mountain west into parts of Idaho, northern Utah, into parts of northwest Wyoming, and western parts of Montana there as well, out of that system hitting the west coast. By the end of the day Thursday, here's some pretty heavy snowfall down there through parts of southern Canada, and then we've also got a little bit of snow and rain heading into the northeast. We've also got some new snowfall about to eject on out over the plains. That's going to be our second snow shot that I mentioned there at the start of the video. You can see by the time we go through our Friday, some snow over the interior northeast, even down to Boston, seeing a little bit of snow. And then our next system kind of pops on up with not only some rain stretching on down to the Gulf Coast, but also the snow shot, likely moving through parts of Missouri, Illinois. And again, it's kind of questionable from there where this goes, but it does look like this is going to head off the mid-Atlantic shore somewhere. And with the cool polar jet stream a little bit further south, that could help to bring snowfall as far south as parts of Virginia, even northern parts of North Carolina. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Here's your National Weather Service alerts, though, as of our Wednesday morning here. You can see, again, we've got some winter storm warnings in those pink counties there into parts of east central South Dakota and southwestern Minnesota. Winter weather advisories extend all the way on over there into Wisconsin. We've also got a lot of winter storm warnings in the high elevations of the west, including California, Oregon, and then further inland as well. Now let's time out this near-term snow shot, then we'll talk about the second one. This is the one that's got the winter storm warnings up there through parts of east central South Dakota, and you can see the snowfall moving through parts of Rapid City, but especially Pierre, Redfield, Watertown, and Brookings this morning, kind of paralleling that I-90 corridor there north of Sioux Falls. You can see Sioux Falls not going to get most of the snow out of this, as that heavier pocket that I'm circling right now is looking to stay just kind of north and northwest of you there, and then eventually trek on over towards places like Minneapolis. Now, the latest runs here from the HRRR do show that starting out as a little bit of rain in places like Rochester, Minnesota, and Minneapolis, but you can see how it turns on over there with the low, which is a very weak one at that, being centered right where I drew the L there on the screen. The wraparound flow drawing some of that snowfall all the way back there towards Sioux Falls in South Dakota for at least a very brief period at the tail end of this event. Through northern Iowa, southeast parts of Minnesota, and north central Wisconsin, it looks like we'll be seeing snow around the middle of the night tonight. By the time we go towards, say, around 3, 4 a.m. into our Thursday morning, you can see some heavier pockets of snow approaching places like just north of Milwaukee towards Green Bay as well. All these areas through central Wisconsin getting in on some decent snowfall, at least for a brief period of time. Then that eventually is going to move over Lake Michigan here, get a little bit of enhancement off of that, which could bring a little bit of ice there through south central Michigan as well. But you can notice here we've also got this little band of some rainfall that's going to move through eastern parts of Illinois, probably subsevere if it does get any thunder, but we'll have to see, with this being a slightly dynamic system, if that does play out. But again, they're through pretty much the northern two-thirds of Michigan. That's where the snow looks to fall out of this. Also, the upper peninsula getting some very nice snowfall that gets the lake enhancement. Then we continue to watch this system as it heads into the interior northeast, but not just up there over the Tug Hill Plateau and in Vermont and New Hampshire. Also some snowfall closer to parts of Connecticut, Rhode Island, as well as there into the Boston area. So we'll have to see how much snowfall amounts we get out of that. But let's take a look at those snowfall amounts along with the system here, starting out either over parts of South Dakota and into Minnesota. Again, you can see in the winter storm warned counties there, which are the ones pretty much in the purple on your screen. This is your National Digital Forecast Database. It pretty much is exactly what the warnings are issued based off of for the National Weather Service here, as it is their product. You can see in those purple colors, that's where locally around 6 to 8 inches of snowfall look to be possible at the high end. But that entire blue swath is where 2 to 4 inches will be possible, and that does include areas especially just south there of Minneapolis and Minnesota, but pretty much right on the edge of you there. in that region. Then through parts of central Wisconsin and northern Wisconsin as well, we'll continue to watch the 2 to 4 inch totals spread through that region. In fact, let's head on over there. You can see again, look at that, pretty much right down the central stripe there of Wisconsin. That's where we get about 2 to 4 inches of snow. Could we locally in some communities pick up closer to 5 inches or 6 inches? Yes. We'll have to watch for the reduced visibility over the northern plains and into the Great Lakes out of this as well. Then you notice here through parts of the northern 2/3 of Michigan and the upper peninsula, we get those totals upwards of 3 to 5 inches of snow. Some spots in north central Michigan, as well as with the lake enhancement in the upper peninsula, closer to 7-8 inches, and maybe even a few spots getting higher than that. And here we go again, a lot of the blues indicating those 2 to 4 inch totals continuing into the northeast. I think we could get a little bit more snowfall than the forecast database is showing down here over southern New England. But again, I do think these heavier totals up here into parts of the Tug Hill Plateau, higher elevations in Vermont and New Hampshire could be closer to a foot. And those will probably verify there. Otherwise, though, that swath of 2 to 4 inches moves through parts of upstate New York, most of Vermont, New Hampshire, and into southern Maine. But again, I do think 2 to 4 inches will still be possible through southern New England, including places like Boston, even though that's not necessarily shown. But again, this is just a prediction here. Now let's talk about that second system, because while that first one's moving through the Great Lakes and Northeast, there's that second shot moving out of the Mountain West. You can see that here by our Friday early morning, starting to move on out into parts of South Dakota, but also Nebraska. You can see that snowfall. This is the chance of 1 inch of snowfall in 24 hours, as the European ensembles are showing here. This is a collection of models, and they're pretty much saying that through parts of south central Missouri, south central Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, northern Kentucky, as well as into parts of West Virginia, there's a solid 50 to even upwards of 70% chance there of getting an inch of snow sometime between around late Friday into our Saturday there. And you can see that continues trekking eastward. As that low heads off the mid-Atlantic shores, you can see again through parts of the northern state of Virginia, West Virginia, we've got parts of Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Long Island, all these areas getting in on a solid at least 50% chance of seeing an inch of snowfall in 24 hours there. So this system does look to bring at least a quick shot of some light to moderate snow, draping through parts of the Midwest, and then eventually the mid-Atlantic and even southern New England getting in on that. Let's talk about the chance of 3 inches of snowfall in that same time period here of 24 hours along with this system. Through parts of maybe eastern Missouri and southwest Illinois, there's about a 20 to 30% chance at this point that that happens. The best chance, though, for some briefly heavy accumulation, upwards of 3 inches, is going to be here in this zone I'm circling right now, though, as this moves on through parts of West Virginia, the state, through southern parts of Pennsylvania, and then on over towards Long Island. A zoomed-in view of this shows you kind of what that looks like, and you can see, again, looks like those heaviest totals are going to kind of trek offshore there through parts of southern New England, and really stay south of Boston this time around, as cooler air is going to be further south, and obviously more moisture the further south you go, so it's going to tap in a little bit further south there. Now here we go. Let's look at the wind gusts out of these couple of systems. You can see here behind system number 1, shot of snow number 1, we've got that little gust of wind that's going to move through parts of the northern plains this afternoon, but especially going to get elevated there by the Great Lakes. We'll probably get some sort of wind advisories issued here, as we'll get some 40, upwards of even 45 mile per hour gusts through parts of Chicago, Indianapolis, western parts of Ohio, even on down into Kentucky and the northern Appalachians there. And of course, if you live off one of those lakes, you'll get those wind enhancements as well. You can see that continues there through parts of our Thursday. And then as we go towards our Friday morning, we start to see those progress through parts of the Northeast, kind of in the wake of that system there, through parts of Pennsylvania, as well as New York, especially getting in on some of those higher gusts, especially off of Lake Ontario and Erie. And then you can see the second system, since it's a little bit broader and further south, we don't get as much of a lake enhancement off that. We just kind of get a broader zone of some 20 to 30 mile per hour gusts being indicated by the models behind that system as it heads eastward. Now, in terms of total precipitation, last couple of things here, we are going to get pretty kind of active there over parts of the western Oregon shores, northwest California. There you can see that heavy rainfall over the course of the next few days. Also a little bit of rainfall there, maybe 1/10 of an inch in some parts of Missouri, southern Illinois, on over there into Kentucky out of shot number 1 of snow. You can see other areas further south fill in with rainfall. By the time we go towards our Sunday at 1 a.m., we will have picked up at least 2 to 4 inches there along the Oregon and northwest California shores. Also watching far southern Texas towards Florida as that second shot of snow kind of levels up there. As we go later this weekend and into next week, we'll also be getting some atmospheric river-like conditions there over parts of northwest California. So we'll be watching for the flood risk there, and through parts of South Texas and southern Florida there, as that second shot of snow kind of pulls along a little bit of a system that'll linger into early next week. So that's kind of everything we're tracking. On the precipitation side of things, the last thing to talk about here is those temperatures, high temperatures day by day from that forecast database. As I film this video, your Wednesday forecast highs well into the 60s, even in near 70 there over a lot of this region I'm circling. Very nice day, especially over parts of Texas, Oklahoma. Meanwhile, we've got 20s and 30s further north and some of those kind of bluish and then eventually turning reddish shades further north. What you're going to notice day by Friday, look at how that line of 30s and 40s sinks further south here through parts of the mid-Atlantic, stretching all the way back into the Central Plains. Still in the 60s and 70s south of the line, though, closer to 20s to 30s there over parts of the north central United States. And this is courtesy of a quick little cold front that really comes in, especially as that second system moves through. You can see, look at this by Saturday afternoon, a lot of those areas that were in the the 60s and near 70 earlier in the week now sitting quite far into the low 40s there for highs. So very interesting to see that there. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Almost 3,000 subscribers. If you like consistent, accurate, and easy to understand forecasts, that's it. Free trial for Weatherbell in the description.